Welcome to Bunch Formation Forever, the newest college football podcast. My name is Chris Vannini. I am not getting in a fight with my dad anytime soon.
We'll see. Famous last words, Chris. And I am David Ubben. I am starting a GoFundMe for the nation of Ireland to have adequate field paint. Chris, we got games, real football games of football between two teams. How about that?
We do. We had 5 FBS games on Saturday. We're going to talk about week 0, talk about every game that was in there, stuff that happened outside of the stadium. We're also going to talk SEC moving to 9 conference games in 26 and CFP metrics that are changing. Some news that happened late last week that we didn't get to. We will address it on this show. For the last time on this podcast, I will note, Until Saturday is not coming back. This is our new show. David and I, independent, separate from The Athletic. We're running this whole thing on our own. We started this a couple months ago. We're having a lot of fun. We appreciate everybody who has reached out to listen to the pod. Every recent episode we've been doing is the most listened to we've done. So things are going great. And please, everybody, tell your friends that show is not coming back. We also have a new YouTube channel, which we went live on Saturday night. We talked for about 30, 40 minutes late in the Stanford Hawaii game. We reacted to that and had some instant kind of reactions there. We're going to try to do that most Saturdays if we're available. TBD on that front every Saturday. Some bunch formation after dark. If we're traveling, if we're at games, it may not be doable. But we didn't put it on the feed. That's only on the YouTube channel. So go check that out.
Yeah, Chris, the simplest way I would say for listeners is they can count on a show, Monday mornings in the feed, and you might get a bonus show Saturday night that might show up in the feed on Sunday. We're still working through that. Our schedules are busy. Saturdays are complex and unpredictable in the fall. So,
but we'll try to let you know on Thursdays if we're going to do something on Saturday night. The old Until Saturday YouTube channel has been co-opted by our friends at The Audible. It's no longer our channel. I tried to buy it. They wouldn't give it to me. It's theirs now. We have check out the show notes for timestamps for stuff if you want to jump ahead in the show, and send all emails and feedback to bunchformationpod@gmail.com, where we have gotten quite a few emails. We've also gotten a lot of 5-star reviews. I'm not going to read them all on this show. We're going to have to start dividing them up because otherwise it's going to take a long time. So I'll just read a couple here because we really appreciate every single one of these. We read every single one. Cool. It's really cool hearing from everybody. So 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast or a comment on Spotify. That's kind of the only way I think you can do it there. But we got one from EFR UVA who says, I've been following Chris and David's work both in print and pod for some time, and they're hands down my favorite people to hear from on the sport. Their passion for college football is evident, and while I wish we could get a little more ACC talk, they cover all the bases. Can't recommend enough. Great work, guys. Dave, we got to talk some more ACC coming up here. You are going to have a lot of ACC to talk about.
We'll have plenty of ACC talk soon. We'll get into more week 1 at the end of the show. So,
yes, and also another review from Nate Marshall, who says, "Hi fellas, great new show on Conversations. A little story about why I love college football. I went to Vandy and was suckered into liking football because my freshman year we started undefeated and game day was hosted outside my college dorm. So I thought that would be fun. I was quickly corrected, but later in college, I studied abroad in South Africa right after the 2010 World Cup. And while in South Africa, I went to local soccer games and a U.S.-South Africa friendly and thought it was awesome. I realized college football was the closest U.S.-based analog to that sporting culture and returned for my senior year fully invested in the game right as James Franklin took over at Vandy. Been a ride with more downs and ups, but college football remains a great way to connect to local culture where I live, stay connected to my alma mater, anchor down, go blue, and stay connected to old friends. Thanks for the pod. P.S. Vintage is Diego Pavia, the Dom Mysterio of college football." Dave, that is Vintage is my nickname on my pro wrestling podcast.
Okay, I was lost here because I am a fake wrestling fan and you are an actual wrestling fan.
Yes, I have another podcast, the Getting Over Wrestling podcast with Adam Silverstein. I'm Vintage Chris Vannini on that show. Is Diego Pavia the Dom Mysterio? Dom Mysterio is the son of Rey Mysterio, the legend. He's kind of a heelish guy who talks a lot of crap. I can see it. He's kind of a weaselly type of guy, but Diego Pavia often gets the job done. So that's a credit to him. So
Diego Pavia has real haters. He's collecting haters by the bushel full. It's incredible. I would venture to say that nobody has more well-earned haters currently in college football than Diego Pavia.
Has a Vanderbilt player ever had haters?
That's a good question. I don't
It's like saying Charlie Brown had hoes. It's not a thing that ever was a.
Yeah, I don't think so. It was like the kid. I forgot the kid's name because I talked to him last year after the Alabama loss. But the after Vanderbilt beat somebody, and he was like, "Alabama, you're next," and then Vanderbilt got smacked. I talked to him last year, but I don't remember his name. He was
I think they beat Kansas.
He was cool. I really like talking to him.
So we have some more reviews. We'll get to those on future shows. I don't want to. But we see all of them. We have them all in our document, so we appreciate that. Any 5-star review or Spotify comment, we'll try to read on the show. But with that, we've got actual football to talk about. And with that, we are going to start with our game recap segment, the first one in the history of this show.
The kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
Shout out to John L. Smith. A quote.
We got to get John L. Smith on the show this offseason, Chris. He was the head coach at some program I'd never heard of recently.
Kentucky State.
I felt like it was more obscure than that. Was that
maybe,
D3?
Maybe he went to like Fork Union or something like that.
I don't know, but John L. has provided so many incredible moments between the coaches are screwing it up, the smile, the ill-fated year at Arkansas in the wake of the Bobby Petrino mess. John L., shout out to that guy.
We have that here, by the way.
Smile.
Incredible. He was at Fort Lewis before Kentucky State.
Okay, that's probably what I remember.
Kansas State Iowa State beats Kansas State 31-24 in Ireland. Ugly first half. Really fun second half. Before we get into the game, Dave, you kind of talked about it a little bit on the live reaction, but you are not happy about this game taking place where it did.
Why? We don't need to do this. Listen, if we want to play one game a year in Ireland, I guess that's fine. But here are my conditions, okay, if we're going to do this. One, I'm not crazy about the exclusive window as the first game of the year. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, oh, there's all this build up to the offseason, and finally it's over, and now we go to Europe. That doesn't really make sense. Two, they're playing this game in a place that obviously always rains. Why can't we have field lines that hold up under the rain? You couldn't see anything. And then I don't know if that influenced the broadcast. We didn't have the yellow first down lines as well, which really impacts the watching experience. Secondly, I don't understand what the deal is with the soccer pitches and playing football on them, in that it looked like they were playing on an ice rink. And I don't really know, I'd have to talk to the equipment guys about like what they do about the cleats. It didn't seem like guys were slipping around a ton, but it wasn't good. And then if they got, if they're sliding on their butt or something, they were going a mile. It's just not like, so my conditions are, we fix the paint. Can we get a real field? Can we grow some actual grass that will hold up to play football on, and stop playing meaningful games 4,000 miles away? Let's make it a non-conference game, kind of a dumb game if we can. This is a rivalry game in a conference between two teams that are contending for the conference. And if I'm a K-State fan who lost a home game for this debacle, I'm pretty mad. It doesn't really make sense. To be clear,
they voluntarily gave it up. Like the option came and Kansas State took it.
Yeah, I'm sure the fans signed off on that for sure, didn't they? I'm sure.
They were not happy.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't serve the fans, which this is a theme we've talked about a lot of the summer, Chris, is so much of this sport is going further and further away from serving the actual fans. And the Ireland game is a perfect example of this. So just in general, I just think watching it, this game deserved better for a lot of the aesthetic reasons that I was describing earlier. But just in general, I'm just really against it. If we're going to play these games in Ireland, they've got to be like Notre Dame, Navy, something with less stakes than this. Jumping in and playing a game where there's all this stuff where it's probably going to rain. They're playing on a slick track. The game deserved better. Let's get into the game.
It's also not new to college football, by the way. They used to play games in Tokyo. There was the Tokyo Bowl. It was like late in the season. I think Barry Sanders won his Heisman from Tokyo back in the day. I don't know if Wisconsin won a Big Ten championship there or something like that, but Michigan might play it in Germany next year against Western Michigan.
Why?
So that, but it's Michigan, Western Michigan. So like,
I'm better with that.
It's not a conference game. It's not a top 25 game. Imagine it's different because week 0, you need a waiver to play. you can't just anybody schedule week 0 or otherwise they would. But imagine if that game yesterday was at Kansas State and Kansas State got to show off, itself in front of a national audience. I think that would have been
They have an
really
awesome
cool.
stadium. It looks like a castle. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Bill Snyder
So-
Family Memorial Stadium.
As for the game itself, also did not go well for Kansas State.
No, it did not.
Like numbers wise, they look like the better team, and even Bill Connolly's post-game win expectancy had them at 78%, meaning if you put up the numbers based on the box score, Kansas State should win that game 78% of the time. And they didn't for a few reasons. Turnovers on both sides, but also Iowa State goes 3 for 3 on 4th down. Kansas State goes 1 for 4. And the one that they converted eventually led to a touchdown. The one they didn't lost them the game at the end of the game. So like Avery Johnson finishes 21 for 30, 273 yards, 9 yards a pass, 2 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown.
Well,
like, on paper it looked good.
Do we want to talk Avery real quick here?
We will in a second, but like,
okay.
If you watch that game, it did not look like he played well.
Well, it's because two of those that are 102 of those 273 yards came on 2 completions.
Yes.
So if you
Big
take
plays.
that away, he's 19 of 28 for 165 yards. That looks like that looks like the game that I watched.
Yes. And also Dylan Edwards, the running back, their top running back, hurt on the muffed punt early, which he fumbled, did not come back. Chris Kleiman, the coach, said he didn't really know what it was. We both picked Kansas State to win and cover, so we were both wrong on that. But I did note I was very concerned about Kansas State's offensive line, a bunch of new starters, and it did not look good. The O-line, Iowa State really dominated the point of attack, I'd say, on both sides. Now, I think Kansas State's rushing numbers looked bigger, but it was because of just a couple of big plays. So not great for Kansas State. We'll talk about Iowa State winning in a second. But Dave, as the foremost Avery Johnson stock guy, you love him. Is it time to sell that stock? Is Avery Johnson just not the quarterback we seem to think he is?
So I'll start here. It didn't. Now we're playing on a weird track. It's raining. So caveats. He didn't look like he had improved a ton as a passer. I like the arm strength, the accuracy, the mechanics have always needed some work. Now, that said, I didn't like how Kansas State used him. If you're trying to turn him into a pocket passer, that doesn't really make sense. That's like, it's like Lamar Jackson, if he gets drafted by the wrong team in the NFL and they're like, no, you have to play the game this way. Well, then he's probably not a future MVP. And that's not to say that Avery Johnson is like a Heisman guy, but you've got to use his legs. And I know you don't want to use them too much where you've got your quarterback banged up after week 0, but it's an important game against a physical defense. You're playing a game in the rain on a very difficult track. And then that first half, I think Chris had 2 or 3 called runs for him. You've got to use his legs.
One of which was the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to use his legs more. And the why I have a lot of questions about, especially because of the weather, especially because of the grass. The why that I hope it's not is them just trying to buy into this idea of like, hey, we've got to show this thing for the NFL. We've got to show that Avery's got this arm, because that's not your job as a coach. And I really thought it was a poorly called game for all those reasons. You already have Avery, who's limited as a passer in general. Didn't look like that much of an improvement. And then you don't really use his legs, which are his greatest asset. He might be the most, if we're ranking the most like elusive quarterbacks in the country, he's top 5 probably. And you just didn't really use that. You get what you asked for there. And like I said, the numbers in the end looked okay, but 21 rush yards, some of those can't, lost on sacks, but yes, the 273, that's inflated by 2 huge touchdown passes. Yeah. He just didn't play very good. You watched it. It was just like, this is not good.
They have a new offensive coordinator, Matt Wells, the former Texas Tech coach, Utah State coach. He's actually promoted from co-OC. So like he has been around the program there. I think Dylan Edwards going out early just kind of totally messed with anything they wanted to do, because they really could not. They had difficulty running the ball at that point. But it also comes down to a couple of plays. There's a 4th down and 8 in Iowa State territory they go for. Avery Johnson makes it's a hard throw, like a fast throw, but off the guy's hands, you got to catch that. That's a scoring drive right there. And they don't get that done. The 4th and 1, they get stuffed at the end of the game. this game really just came down to a handful of plays. And I thought by the way, I thought the defense for both teams looked really good. Like, yes, there was some bad offensive play, but the defenses were playing very good. These are two.
It was jarring watching this game and then going to UNLV Idaho State where there were busts all over the field. I mean, just nobody was open in this game, and that's part of what we're talking about with the Avery Johnson stuff. You're throwing into tight windows, not exactly his forte, and especially when you've got a quarter and a half, 2 quarters of like, hey, it's tough to get our guys open. These guys can cover. They're not busting. Well, let's make them account for the legs. And so shout out to Iowa State's defense, Kansas State defense. That was impressive, especially the first game of the year, to communicate as well as those teams were, account for your assignments as well those teams were. For as ugly as the offensive games were, the defensive film, when they're watching that, on Sunday, they got to feel pretty good. Both of those
also
teams.
Real quick on Avery Johnson, I do wonder, last year he got banged up second half of the year, and they don't have quarterback depth. And I do wonder if they want to avoid the Avery Johnson called runs as much as they can to keep him healthy. But based on that game, that's a game you're going to need Avery Johnson's legs, especially if Dylan Edwards is not playing. So
saving him for help.
It threw them into a rut in week 0, which is really tough.
Saving his legs for health, only works if you're winning games by a lot. When you're losing games, I think they'd rather take a banged up Avery Johnson and be 1-0 than be 0-1, losing a game that they really need to get to Arlington for the Big 12 championship and have a healthy Avery. I don't think that's the trade that they were looking to make.
I did see some Ohio State fans who were like, we're very grateful that Kansas State picked Avery Johnson instead of Will Howard, who then led Ohio State to a national championship, played really well, and got drafted. It's the same thing we saw kind of with Oklahoma. They kind of let Dylan Gabriel go because they had
I wrote about
Arnold.
this last year. It's more complicated than that.
It is more complicated, but like this is the scenario schools kind of have to decide right now, and it's tough. So that's it for Kansas State, except for one thing we'll get at the end. Iowa State. That second half was incredible, man. Tyler Bowser, the offensive coordinator, their last 4 drives of the game, they go touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and then kneel it out at the goal line after a touchdown was called back. 3 for 3 on 4th down, like I said. Rocco Becht finishes 14 for 28, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. Up and down, but made some really good throws, especially on those touchdowns. 2 very good throws. We had concerns. They had a bunch of new wide receivers coming in, and it was kind of hit and miss there. But I thought they really played well at the line of scrimmage as well. And this is a team, Matt Campbell, still a really, really good coach. And Iowa State makes it clear they are going to be in the Big 12 race.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think the only thing is, losing Jalen Noel, losing Jaden Higgins, people had a lot of questions coming in, myself included. I think those questions are still accurate. Rocco Becht didn't look like the same Rocco Becht. And again, rain, grass, hard to have a really timing-based passing offense. But I didn't see a lot of guys running around for Iowa State that I was like, oh, okay. Like this guy can do it. And I think those losses they're going to feel those. But if your defense is playing as well as they can, and you got Rocco Becht, who I like Rocco Becht as a playmaker. I don't know that I buy him, as like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but he made plays when they had to have him yesterday. There were some ugly throws in there. We'll see more when they're playing in better conditions, but that's a game that you just got to get out of there with a win. And Iowa State did that. There's so many logistical issues with that. And both of these teams are playing again on Saturday. They're not taking – a lot of teams take a week off or play a late game.
They're playing good FCS teams.
Yeah.
Iowa State's got South Dakota. Kansas State's got North Dakota. And I talked to people at Kansas State in the offseason, and they had said that everybody we talked to said, don't take that week off, especially because if you lose, you are carrying that for 2 weeks, and it's tough. So they wanted to get right back at it. So we'll see on that. Iowa State, very clean game. You had the 2 turnovers, which was bad, but the conditions were tough. The goal line toss that bounces off the running back's head and you lose that. Like that was coming off the muffed punt. That was a tough play, but 1 penalty for 5 yards. You go 3 for 3 on 4th down, including going for the win at the end. They're
like that call.
They're up 3. You kick the field goal to go up 6. That makes, I'm always curious about this. That makes the other team need to be more aggressive because they're down 6. They have to go for a touchdown, which will then win them the game with the extra point, as opposed to being up 3. You maybe play it a little bit safer because the field goal is good. They go for the win, call a great play action pass in the flat. and win. So again, the post-win expectancy number is not great on paper, but looks like a solid team, and you come out of that game with a win. Good news.
Two big picture thoughts. One, in a Big 12 race that's going to be tight, we're probably going to have if you could probably lose 2 Big 12 games and still feel like you got a shot to get to Arlington, you got to just win games like this. Iowa State certainly can get there.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you survive a game like this against a really good team, you feel good, and you got to win games like that. 2, I think if I'm Texas Tech, if I'm Utah, if I'm whoever else feels like they can contend for this league, and looking around, I didn't see anything out there that scared me.
Fair enough. Last thing on this, Avery Johnson's dad and brother got in a scuffle or a fight or whatever after the game. There's a video going around on social media. They eventually released a statement today to On3 where they said, "We sincerely apologize. It was senseless bickering that escalated into an unnecessary fight. We have resolved our differences and take full responsibility. We've apologized to our immediate and extended families." I don't know the deal. I don't know. We don't know what happened, what led to it, but
just can't have it. I don't care what happened.
Yikes.
You just can't have it. You just can't have it.
Within the same family too, in Ireland. Interesting.
And
but,
I feel like it's maybe slightly different if it's just like random K-State fans like chirping the family, and they just have enough, and they're already mad, and you have K-State fans fighting each other. But it's a bad look. I feel bad for Avery Johnson. He's gonna have to deal with this, probably answer questions about it at some point.
Yeah.
And I think last night I compared it to just like a dropped pass in a game where you don't have to tell, like, you can't do that. Like you just can't have it.
Yes. I've never gotten in a real fight with my dad, but he might still be able to take me, I think. Every son feels like they get to the point where they can take their dad. I don't know if I'm there yet. But I think that's
I don't know. I have gotten in many battles with my dad on the golf course. He's only beat me probably a handful of times. So I don't as far as hand-to-hand combat, I don't know. I've been in a few fights growing up. Chris, when was the last time you got in a physical fight?
I mean, it was young, like I was playing hockey, really, if that counts.
Yeah. I would say probably sophomore year of high school. Just like you mess around with friends, and then like somebody takes it too far, and then all of a sudden you're like wrestling in the grass. It was one of those things. Like fist fight, probably like 6th grade, 7th grade, something like that.
Yeah,
nothing too crazy. So don't do it.
Keep your head in a swivel.
Across in a foreign nation, outside of the stadium, when your son
like
had
you
a
don't
really
want
bad day. Like, don't do that.
I had thought like looking up police records, but then I realized, it's in Ireland. I don't know how to do that. Like if it was local, if it was in America, like we would have done that as reporters. So anyway, we'll see on that. Kansas State, a lot to fix for week 2. Next game, Hawaii beating Stanford.
The
23-20 on a walk-off field goal. Really back and forth game. Hawaii quarterback Mika Elahado, 27 for 39, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 36 rushing yards, and 1 leg. This dude was limping for like at least half the game.
It was bad there. In the fourth quarter, it was like, oh my gosh.
Like he was literally hopping to the sideline, and somehow Stanford is not blitzing like 8 on every play to try to get to him, which
Hawaii
I think was a
quarterback
problem.
Kerry Strug, shout out.
Stanford, late in that game, they had a 20-play, 85-yard drive that took almost 10 minutes. That gave them the lead in the fourth quarter. 15 runs on that drive, and
we were tapping back into intellectual brutality there. I think I watched Andrew Luck. I think when the camera was on him, there was a little bit of like drool coming out of his mouth during that drive. I don't know.
But Stanford's up 3 and driving in the fourth, like midway through the fourth quarter, potentially to go up 2 scores or inside like the 30, I think. And they throw an interception to the Hawaii edge rusher who makes a
spectacular
great play.
Spectacular play.
That leads to Hawaii going down for the field goal to tie it, then a Stanford 3 and out, then a Hawaii drive field goal for the win. So really Frank Reich kept all his timeouts. Some people criticized him for that, I guess. But if you watch Stanford's pass game in that game was horrible.
Yeah.
I actually thought late in the game they kind of found something with the running game, but they kind of blew it. The passing game going to be a big problem all year. Hawaii gets a much needed win. Elahado played late last season in a couple of games, local kid, lefty, and they really liked him. So you like heard good. I talked to people at Hawaii at Media Day, and they really liked him coming in. They just weren't sure if they'd have enough weapons around him. He makes the plays, man. Really fun player. Hawaii's first win over a power conference team in, I want to say like 2018 or 2019, I think it was. Dave, your thoughts?
I think both of these teams looked sort of competent. I think with Hawaii, they just haven't really turned the corner under Timmy Chang. They haven't looked great. By the way, we were talking a little bit last night about the Brotherhood hashtag that they have leaned into. Can we get a bow up hashtag?
What about like throwing bows?
Anything along those lines. We need to do those. But like, I think there was also some worry that Stanford would be smoking crater status, a la like Northwestern 2024-3, and that was just not the case at all. I thought they looked okay. Frank Reich
that's the thing,
into a really difficult position.
We got a comment on the live show that people thought we were being too nice to Stanford and that it is kind of a cratered situation. I think we're just talking about Stanford relative to expectations.
Yes.
They were a 2.5
They're not going to be good.
They were a 2.5 point underdog coming into this game. It is a lost season. Frank Reich is not going to be the coach. Like everybody here is here for the short term. So like based on those very low expectations, I thought in the second half, they at least found something. They dominated time of possession. They go 8 for 17 on third down, average 4 yards a carry. Like there were some pieces there that were like, all right, like the problem was you go 15 for 30 passing, 3 yards per attempt in an interception that kind of cost you the game.
Yeah.
And so like, they were also gifted a touchdown really by Hawaii with the fair catch on the kickoff and then the strip sack. So like Stanford is going to be bad, but I think we got a glimpse of what Stanford may want to be in the future under Andrew Luck.
Yeah. By the way, Chris, tweet from the Stanford tree, just lost to a YouTube kicker from Japan today. Let's not gloss over the kicker story. Tell us about Stanford's or Hawaii's kicker, excuse me.
This is incredible. And I kind of want to write a story about this. I assume everybody's going to write a story about this. Kensei Matsuzawa, the kicker, 2 years after graduating high school in Japan, he's working at a Morton's Steakhouse in Tokyo. His dad gifts him a trip to America, and he goes to an NFL game and realizes, I want to be a kicker. And so he goes back home to Japan, teaches himself kicking on YouTube, throws out a bunch of film. He only hears back from Hocking College, a junior college in Ohio. He goes there. He basically kind of taught himself English, cut his own hair to save money. And after Hawaii lost its kicker to Arkansas, they added him after the 2023 season. And so now he's out here kicking a game-winning field goal to beat Stanford. He said in the post-game press conference, he was more nervous to do the press conference than he was to do the kick. So you may read some stories about this guy in the near future, but unbelievable story. Japanese kicker who was in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, taught himself kicking in English. Like, this is why we love college football. We said this on our episode a week ago. We said it's so cool that Hawaii has a team. The sport, like, is, for everything we said about Ireland, the fact that the sport started the day in Ireland and ended in Hawaii is incredible. And you end it with a Japanese kicker with that kind of story winning the game, who nobody knew about, but suddenly a lot of people know about because he gets called upon in a big moment and makes the play. That's
and not just a play. He hit a 37-yarder on the previous drive to tie it with 2 minutes left. You missed that kick, you're playing uphill big time. So shout out to our guy Kensei. Big game.
Yeah, he didn't miss an extra point all of last year. He went 3 for 3 on field goals with a long of 40 in this game.
There you go.
So unbelievable, awesome. The Brotherhood is 1-0. Stanford has a lost season, but given the expectations, I think maybe they found something with the running game. We'll see. Kansas beats Fresno State 31-7. Really a dominant game from the beginning. Jalen Daniels completes 18 of 20 passes, 3 touchdowns. Defense forced 3 turnovers, and it was done. It was everything you wanted to see if you were Kansas. Jalen Daniels looked healthy, although he did get hit a couple of times. Got to keep him healthy and on his feet. But he looked really good. The running game looked good. The new half of the stadium that they renovated looked good. Because remember, they were playing last year. They didn't play at home last year because they were renovating half the stadium. So that looked good. Yeah, there's not much more to say other than like Kansas looks like a team that maybe they could get in the Big 12 picture as well.
I think they'll be in the picture. I mean, for me, if Jalen Daniels is healthy, you can do that. But it looked easy for him.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like, there were moments last year that Cam Ward just looked like he was playing at half speed. Like he's watching it. It's like, Neo at the end of the Matrix where he's just seeing he's like, I'm unflustered by this. Jalen Daniels looked like that a lot on Saturday. And he made good choices on when to tuck it and go. He was running well. He was pretty accurate. You want, like you said, you want him to take less hits, but Fresno State was also heating him up on some level. Some of that's offensive line, but if they're bringing 7 guys, he's getting the ball out. He's taking hits,
yes.
But if you're going to blitz him, you're going to get hit sometimes. And they had some stretches there where Entz was heating him up pretty big time. So, he was getting the ball out for whatever that's worth. But yeah, pretty much a perfect game for Kansas and what you'd want to see. I still think Fresno State can be okay this year. We'll see. That game will age interestingly. If Fresno State wins 7-8 games this year, I don't know that I'd be absolutely floored. But I think this game, how we perceive this game will change based on how Fresno performs throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah. Also want to shout out both of Kansas's coordinators, I think, are sneaky good coaches. Jim Zabrowski promoted to OC. He was the co-OC. He's been there for a bit. He's been with Lance Leipold for a bit. Jeff Grimes was the OC last year. It was not great. When things kind of picked up, it was mostly because of Zabrowski. And so he's the OC now, called a great game. And then the defense coordinator, DK McDonald, really under the radar good coach, held Stanford to 1.3 yards per rush yesterday, including sacks.
Fresno
State. Oh, sorry. Fresno State. So Lance Leipold's got some good coaches on that staff with him as well. So keep an eye on Kansas. Fresno State, we'll see. It was first game with new staff, new players. You take it as it is. The surprisingly most interesting and entertaining game of the day, UNLV beats Idaho State 38-31. Idaho State FCS program coached by Cody Hawkins, son of Dan. They're slowly improving, but they haven't had a winning season since 2018. They were a 30.5 point underdog in this game, and they were leading at the beginning of the fourth quarter. UNLV's offense ultimately puts up more than 500 yards, more than 300 yards on the ground. Problem is, Idaho State had 550 yards of offense and moved the ball very well. If not for 4 interceptions thrown by Idaho State, the Bengals probably win this game, including one of the worst goal line fades you will ever see. It was just tossed it up to a defender to grab it. And then there was an interception, tough play late, another bad interception that leads to UNLV taking the lead. So UNLV might be the most entertaining team to watch this year, because I do think that offense kind of looks legit. Anthony Calandria at quarterback, Orgy coming in a bit. They wanted to run the ball and they did, but passed the ball pretty well. Calandria did. The first play of the game, they have 2 quarterbacks on the field. Orgy tosses to Calandria, who throws it deep and draws a pass interference. So I think they're going to be very fun on offense. Defense looked horrible. It was either a bust, like you said, or even when they were there, the tackling was horrible. That really has to get fixed. I think watching this game on the Mountain. This game was on the Mountain West app, by the way. Probably got a record number of downloads for that thing. People had to watch
it is on my phone now. I mean, I think they're going to roll. I think the 2 quarterback stuff for them is going to work. I think they're going to use that a lot this year. Be able to kind of balance that. Both those guys can run. Orgy obviously a little more physical. Orgy looked a little slow for me.
Calandria was the better runner, by the way.
Yeah, Calandria was playing pretty good. I mean, Calandria, he had some moments at Virginia where you were just like, I don't know what's going to happen with this guy. He was a chaos quarterback. Yes, it was awesome. And so, I think both these guys are really good fits for this offense. But this UNLV is trending toward my favorite 1 a.m. football team. I thought it was going to be Arizona last year after they got in a shootout with New Mexico week 1, and then Arizona kind of cratered. But UNLV, I think they're going to be able to move the ball. The good thing about some of the issues defensively is a lot of it is UNLV is going to see that on tape and say, that's us. We screwed that up. But whether or not you can fix it, this is a team where it's a lot of new faces. It's a lot of guys who have been a lot of places and it hasn't worked out.
By the way, some of the names on this team that I didn't realize were there until watching this game: Justin Flo, linebacker, former top 10 recruit at Oregon.
Denver Harris,
He's
another
there now.
5-star guy.
Denver Harris, JoJo Earl, the former Alabama TCU wide receiver, was there.
Yep.
We mentioned Calandria and Alex Orji. Someone called this last chance UNLV. And I kind of like that, like not in a derogatory term.
UNLV should not lean into that, but
they should. They are the rebels. They are the Las Vegas rebels. Like they should be just like a collection of guys who get it together. That kind of does fit.
The problem is that Dan Mullen went out the last couple of years when they weren't doing that. So
correct, but Dan Mullen went out and tried to get every SEC Big Ten player he could. And you looked at this team, you're like, they look like pretty imposing, the team. Like they had some big dudes, but like just not making tackles. So
well, I mean, here's the thing. These guys are physical specimens, but there's a reason why it hasn't worked out at their first school, their second school. And you're gonna see some moments, but then like if you can't cover your assignment, I mean, I want to go watch film with their defense and be like, how many MAs did you have like on a drive? Was it in the double digits? Because this looked messy. So fun game to watch. It was definitely the drunkest game of the day, but good Lord, UNLV. That was a tough watch.
One of my takeaways is wondering if Boise State is going to completely run away with the Mountain West this year, just based on UNLV and Fresno, two teams you think should be in the upper half of the conference, but we'll see. A lot of season to go. Western Kentucky beats Sam Houston 41-24. Get ready to hear the name Maverick McIver a lot. I've talked about him a lot on this show. He does exactly what we expected him to do. 33 for 51, 401 yards, 3 touchdowns. The transfer from Texas Tech and Abilene Christian, they brought his offense coordinator with him. And then also receiver Matthew Henry from Western Illinois, 7 catches, 148 yards, 1 touchdown. Sam Houston had a fumble, scoop, and score on this that gave them the lead in the second half and kind of made the game closer than it ultimately looked. But ultimately, Western Kentucky wins, covers, kind of got through some bumps along the way, and they're kind of the number 1, number 2 team of Conference USA. This was a conference game, by the way.
Yep.
And they look good, and Sam Houston kind of put up more of a fight than I expected. So,
yeah, Tyson Helton's getting it done at Western Kentucky. They've kind of blossomed into this sort of plug and play program, brought back the identity of Western Kentucky. I mentioned on the show last night. I talked to Tyson when he got this job, and he talked a lot about that. About, hey, we want to sling it around the yard, be fun, be a place where quarterbacks, receivers want to be. I mean, you look at the guys that have come through there the last few years. Even last year when they had some injuries, TJ Finley goes down, they bring in Caden Veldkamp, all that stuff. McIver, a huge pickup for them. I think he looked really, really good. And he was a guy, at Texas Tech. I forget who was in front of him, but I don't think it was an issue where like he just couldn't play. I think he just had really good guys in front of him and then got the opportunity at Abilene. And now, I mean, watching him, he didn't look like an underdog to me. He looked like a guy that, like, this is the next Western Kentucky guy that's going to throw for 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. Like, I'm ready for it. So let's go.
Also, you want to shout out Alton McCaskill, by the way.
Alton McCaskill. I talked to him this summer. He's had an interesting college career. Obviously, was the AAC offensive freshman of the year when he came to Houston. Tore his ACL that next spring. He's had a really rough go since then. Went to Colorado. Was in a commercial with Deion Sanders. Has been kind of trying to get back from that knee injury. I think, with medicals, especially in college, it's hard to say, but my understanding is that it was not your run-of-the-mill torn ACL. There was some other stuff going on, and he sort of insisted at every moment that he's still 100%, that he looks okay, and then my eyes say, no, you're not. And then he hasn't been able to get reps. So he went to Colorado, transferred to Arizona State, played behind Cam Scatterby last year, didn't really find a place. And, Sam Houston's got a bunch of backs. They got a couple guys ahead of him, but he was the guy that looked like the best. He had a 52-yard run last night. He's finished with 72 yards. He scored. Great to see him back. If you had a chance, read, I wrote about transfers in the class of 2021, and I told Alton's story and kind of how his career has gone as part of that project. And, good to see him have some success. Shout out to Alton. Very nice kid. I talked to him at Colorado Media Day, like 2023, and I hadn't really interacted with him much before. And great kid. Hopefully it works out for him.
Yeah. So Conference USA game there. Also, Sam Houston has what may be my new favorite turnover prop. It's literally just a big bag of money with a big dollar sign on it.
Here's the problem with this, Chris. Here's my problem with this. Okay. If there was actual money in there and the players could take actual money out and make it rain on the sidelines or collect payment for forcing a turnover, I'd be more into it. But what whatever's in the bag, it's probably just like some cotton or like some stuffing from like I want actual money. This is my problem with the turnover money bag. It's false advertising is what it is.
Based on the way some certain NIL contracts are formed, like it's not that far off that could be a possibility if you get some turnovers. So shout out to Sam Houston for the literal money bag. The bagmen are back, man. The bagmen are on the sidelines just giving it out for turnovers. We like
people say like, oh, we can't have incentive-based contracts in college football and this is pay for play. But like it is, coaches say it and talk about it all the time, whether they're talking about it or not. Like I talked to John Summerall at AAC Media Days. And he was talking about, Darian Mensah was their third string quarterback. And then after he won the starting job, like, well, we got to pay him and make him, worthwhile. They obviously weren't going to be able to pay what Duke was going to, but they were working on that at the start of last season. It's the same thing. How is that not how is that not incentive-based play? Like, oh, you did really good in camp. Let's give you more money. Like, it's not the same as like, oh, you forced a fumble. Here's $2,000. But it's like the same concept. If you force 2 fumbles a game for 4 games in a row, guess what? You're probably going to get a call from the collective and, get paid. So incentive-based pay is already in college sports. We're just still kind of pretending it's not.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to go to the helmet sticker segment, which we're going to do every week here, shouting out some players.
Can we helmet stickers, Chris?
Hold on. I got a drop for this.
Big time players. Step up in big game. That's all I gotta say.
Shout out to Santana, Moss. These go to some performances you may not have noticed or were maybe appreciated. So like, it's not going to be the quarterback who throws for 400 yards who we all see.
Yeah.
It's other types of guys who you should take notice of who had a good game. You go first.
Well, I don't know what happened to helmet stickers, Chris. I feel like they've lost some luster in the sport in general. I feel like fewer places are leaning into helmet stickers where I feel like in the early 2000s, 2010s, it was like a big deal. Talking about helmet stickers, we had our guys, Lou Holtz and Mark May and Reese Davis handed them out at 2 a.m.
They do it on ESPN's College Football Sunday show, which I watch, but not many people watch it because it's like on ESPN
back. Bring the helmet stickers back. So we're going to do our part in this. My guy, we're going to go Cam Pickett, Ball State transfer. They needed
Kansas wide receiver.
Kansas receiver caught a pair of touchdowns here. Obviously, his first game over from Ball State. Kansas, if Jalen Daniels is going to be healthy and is going to be a guy that is going to help Kansas compete for a Big 12 title, he was going to probably need some new targets. You look at them last year. If you go look at their receiving numbers, it's senior. They lost everybody that was catching passes for them last year. Yep. And from what I saw from Cam Pickett, it looks pretty clear that he's probably going to be their number 1 receiver this year. Had kind of a pretty good year at Ball State last year, but I liked what I saw from him physically. And big time game from him. 6 catches, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 0, Cam Pickett. Shout out. I think you're going to get a bunch more balls as long as Jalen Daniels stays healthy. Chris, who you got?
My helmet sticker goes to UNLV running back Jaden Thomas, who had 147 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 10 carries against Idaho State, including a 70-yard touchdown. I think he had like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown as well. This guy is going to be one of the best running backs in the group of 5. He's not a transfer. He's been there a little bit. Goes by the name Jet as well. He looked good. He was breaking tackles, hitting holes. UNLV, again, I think they're going to put up a lot of points this year, ultimately, in that offense. And I think they know Jaden Thomas is a guy they're going to lean on. So shout out to him. Heck of a game, Jaden Thomas. Mm-hmm. Now, before we end the game segment, I wanted to talk about this fake injury thing that has popped up. So there's a new rule this year to discourage faking of injuries. If a player goes down after the ball is spotted for the next play, it will cost that team either a timeout or a delay of game if you don't have a timeout. And this happened twice yesterday. Once to Iowa State in the second half, cost them a timeout, and also happened to Hawaii on offense in the fourth. I think it might have been the fourth quarter as well, where I saw the replay of the Hawaii guy that it's like an offensive lineman, I think, was like limping, kind of hopping toward the sideline. And it looked like a coach told them to go down, because when guys are actually injured, coaches do want guys to go down. Mm-hmm. The ball had been spotted. They're penalized a timeout. So this rule that was created to kind of discourage the faking of injuries, which is a real problem, has been called twice now. Both situations looked legit. which I don't think is what you want. And I thought the understanding was going to be if it is an obvious injury, they weren't going to penalize people that. So something to monitor. Maybe the first couple of weeks they try to figure it out and work the kinks out of this rule, but that jumped out to me. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, I think I'd rather just err on the side of taking timeouts away and penalizing. The fear that I have is that guys feel a pressure to not give their team as a penalty, and that is why that's been the whole issue from the start.
That's why they're not kicking guys out for the whole drive, which is what like coaches and people want to say, because you don't want actually injured players to stay in the game because then they realize I can't come back in to the drive.
Yes.
So that is that. There was also, you may have noticed, no more on a replay, calls are no longer confirmed or stands. They are just upheld or overturned. That means we no longer will know if the call had enough evidence to be confirmed or didn't, and they just couldn't overturn it. I don't know why they made this change. They thought it'd be simpler. I don't like it. It's a little bit less transparency. We talked about it at the time. So you may have noticed that. That is a new rule this year, that there is no confirmed or stands, just upheld, and you're not going to know. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Don't love it. Should we go to the media scrum, Chris?
We shall go to the media scrum with some news that happened late last week.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
First up, the SEC is moving to 9 conference games beginning in 2026. It's finally happened. We've talked about this for like 10 years.
Yeah.
At least. It'll happen next year. There'll be 3 permanent opponents and then 6 rotating opponents. The idea is that everybody will eventually play everybody. You may not know this. Texas A&M joined the SEC in 2012. They have never hosted Georgia. They have never played at Kentucky. The SEC, the way the SEC schedule always worked is that like you did not have a lot of cross type stuff. You just have teams that never play each other. You're barely in the same conference at that point. So conferences got too big. This had to happen. I always kind of defended the SEC in the past from this because, well, the Big Ten, the SEC, and Pac-12, sorry, Big Ten, Pac-12, Big 12 went to 9 games. Nobody made them do that. The Big Ten and Pac-12 did it for television money. But once you're in an 18-team, 16-team conference, at that point, you're too big. You have to do this. So ultimately, it's a good thing. Initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was always going to end at this place eventually. There's just too much pressure and annoyance, and it doesn't make sense. I've talked about this for years. It's imagine if the NFC played 18 games and the AFC played 16 games, and this is a product because no one's in charge of college football. It doesn't make sense. So, I'm glad here the ACC, we'll see how long they hold out that the last league is still playing 8. I would imagine they'll go to 9, if not by 2026 very quickly. I'm a little bit bemoaning. I mean, Chris, if it was my perfect world, would have small conferences, 7 conference games, and then some conference scheduling mandates. You got a ton of cross-conference games, but that's not the world we live in. We live in the super conference era. So you have to play these 9 conference games. I like they've added, obviously, you have to play a P4 or Notre Dame on top of that.
Yeah, so that is 10. So that is a required 10 Power 4 opponents, which the Big Ten does not have. So Curt Cignetti, the point he made at Media Day, saying that they were doing an SEC schedule because they were playing 9. They were playing 9 Power 4 games. No longer the case. Indiana, I do not think is going to back off its scheduling. Penn State kind of has scheduled pretty easily too. So
yeah,
this had to happen. So it's ultimately good, and it's also
a little bit of a tough spot. A little bit of a tough spot for the Georgias and the South Carolinas of the world that have relatively Florida as well that have relatively big time non-conference rivalries. That it's going to be hard for them to add another team. Most of those places have kind of like South Carolina's played North Carolina. Georgia has obviously they played Clemson, they've played Oregon, they've scheduled up on top of that. Florida has that series with Utah. So credit to them, but it just got harder. And I worry that with that requirement now and the 9 games that some of these big time games involving the SEC members that have these rivalry games with P4 opponents, that's just going to be what they do now.
That's because you do have some games like, Alabama plays Ohio State, Oklahoma State, UT Martin in 2028. So like you're going to have to change some of this potentially. And we'll see if some games are going to get canceled. We don't know what. We'll see on that front, but it's also ties into the college football playoff, which is
also, well, before we get to that, Chris, I get why the fans of each team care about it a lot. I'm struggling to care about the 3 permanent opponents.
So like I was talking about this with somebody in the Big 12 earlier today, which was like, I don't care, but SEC fans really care. Like everybody's coming out with their projections. This is good, this and that, and this and then. I don't get it. And I think because like you want to protect rivalries, I think the Big 10 does it best, which is like you protect as many rivalries that should be protected, and then you do the rest of the schedule. And if it's uneven permanent games, like so what? Like Michigan should play Michigan State and Ohio State every year. Like they just should. And like even if it's uneven and some teams have more rivalries, like who cares? Like the Kansas State Iowa State thing, they're not scheduled to play in like 27, I think.
7, they're not playing next year. They've played uninterrupted for like 10,000 years. Yeah,
and it's like a controversy of like this needs to happen. It's not the Big 12's choice. Like the schools agreed to that. The Big 12 only has a handful of protected rivalries. But if I was just like, yeah, Alabama should probably play Auburn and Tennessee and LSU as the permanent ones. Is that more difficult? Like, yeah, sure, but those are the games that matter. I don't know, but in the SEC, there's such the strength of schedule stuff is just like ingrained into everybody's head that they have to argue over this. So like, you don't know in a given year who's going to be good or who's not, or who cares? You should want to play Tennessee and Auburn and LSU every year because those are big games and those are fun games. And you don't see this in the Big 10, I don't think, with some of like Ohio State's playing Michigan and Penn State every year. Like they're not complaining about it, because that's just like, that's how it should be. And so I don't love this 3-6 thing either. And I don't really, they're going to try to calculate it based on rivalries and geography and winning percentage and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like I'd rather play the teams you want to play rather than, I hope we get Vandy on there,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's a juggling act. I mean, I think Tennessee is a really good example because they do have rivalries with Kentucky and Vanderbilt that are like real rivalries. And then there's also the rivalries with Alabama, which has been mostly one-sided for much of the last couple decades. It's kind of switched back a little bit. And then there's the Florida rivalry there as well. That could be an issue.
So just give them all 4 of those. Like, what's the problem?
I'd be fine with the unbalanced, like protected games personally, but I don't know. All I know is that fans feel very passionately about this, and I get why, and it's going to be contentious. It's wherever we land, it's okay. The most important rivalries are going to be protected. If we lose some like tertiary rivalries, it's like,
Your schedule is going to be difficult no matter what. You're in the SEC.
And this is the Super Conference era. So like it is what it is. Like I don't like it either, but I'm living in the real world and we're gonna lose some rivalries. They're not going to be the important ones. The getting to the Super Conference era already cost us, backyard brawl, border war, all these games. If we lose, if whatever.
I found out yesterday that
Florida and Tennessee don't play every year. It's like whatever.
Also, like you look at SEC history, there's teams that have barely, like Alabama's been to Florida, I think like 11 times ever, and they've been in the conference for 90 years.
It's the crossover games, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And you look back at like even the early days of the SEC, some teams would play 7 conference games, some would play 4. Like it was just there was no
I think
rhyme or reason.
One thing that never really made sense to me at any point, like growing up, is why one of the crossover games had to be protected. Like they locked in one of the crossover games, and that's why you get some of those. So like Arkansas, their protected crossover game was South Carolina. I think it's mostly because they came in the league at the same time, but like no one cares. Like what? So when you had the one protected crossover game, then that limits. That's how you get A&M not going to Georgia and Alabama going to Florida like 11 times in a century, and it is what it is. But I'm just struggling to care. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry.
So the larger part of this too is this impact on the college football playoff, and yes so the playoff last week as well announced they would have a new strength of schedule metric, and they would be adding a strength of record metric. And it's in the announcement, they said, quote, The current schedule strength metric has been adjusted to apply greater weight to games against strong opponents, which that's what strength of schedule is. I don't know. An additional metric, record strength, has been added to the selection committee's analysis to go beyond a team's schedule strength to assess how a team performed against that schedule. This metric rewards teams defeating high-quality opponents while minimizing the penalty for losing to such a team. Conversely, these changes will provide minimal reward for defeating lower-quality opponent while imposing a greater penalty for losing to such a team.
A lot of subjective words there. A lot of subjective words there. I lost count.
So like, we don't know what this is going to look like, but I do wonder if this is going to backfire on everything, because we don't know what this strength of record is going to look like. Because Indiana last year, strength of schedule 67. Their strength of record was 8. Boise State's strength of schedule 78. Their strength of record was 10, because strength of record typically rewards wins, which is what the whole complaint was, that the committee was only giving spots to teams that win. So very TBD on what this is going to be. I think it's possible it backfires, although I'm guessing the reason they know that they added it is because the SEC is complaining so much about strength of schedule. And then an Alabama team that lost to 2 6-6 teams deserved to be in for some God knows reason. So the complaining worked. It got them there. Now, what does this mean for potential expansion? The Big Ten has said they would not do 5+11 if the SEC was not going to go to 9 conference games. The SEC is now going to 9 conference games. Does that mean the Big Ten will instantly get on board with 5+11? Possibly, but not for sure. Greg Sankey, in an interview with Feinbaum, kind of reading between the lines, did not love the idea of a 24 or 28 team playoff. He kind of maintained that 16 is their ideal spot. If I had to guess, my guess is we get to 5+11. It's the one that most people will agree on now that the SEC is playing 9 conference games.
Yeah.
And will that be a temporary pause on playoff movement moving forward? I don't know. We're about to have 4 different playoff formats in 4 years, which is ridiculous. But kind of wanted to talk about that and what could come down the road. Any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think we're getting to something that makes a little bit more sense. Like you said, as far as how these things are applied, I think it's anyone's guess. I think we'll see. I think it, we joked last week that they're going to add a metric that just shows a map. And if it's in the South, then you get extra points. I think that's basically what the SEC wants, because they're just convinced that their schedule's harder based on reasons every year. The talent is there, but I
can't believe we're doing again
that simple.
After Alabama lost to Michigan, South Carolina lost to Illinois. I can't believe we're still doing this. But credit to the Big Ten, because their kind of stance, I think, pushed their stance, and the CFP's move, I think, did push the SEC to this point. Also, importantly, ESPN is going to be paying the SEC for these extra conference games, which was the first starting point. But teams like Kentucky did not want 9 conference games, because you're just trying to get to a bowl game when you're Kentucky. That's always been the issue holding that. When in 2020, when it was an all SEC schedule, you had a lot of people being like, this is why we don't want more conference games, because it's going to be very tough. But we're getting there. We'll talk more when I'm sure the SEC network will have some big, great reveal of the show, which is good content. This is just the most NFL type of content that I don't care about. Your biggest rivalries will be protected. The rest, we'll see. Last bit of news. Former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald settled his wrongful termination lawsuit with Northwestern last week. If you missed it, if you remember, 2 years ago, he was fired amid an investigation into hazing. He was initially just suspended for a couple of weeks in the middle of the summer, which people thought was kind of lenient. Then the Daily Northwestern, the student paper, writes about some of the alleged hazing incidents. The president then says, actually, I'm going to fire Pat Fitzgerald because he should have known about this, which, sure, but you had already announced you were going to suspend him. So lawsuit for wrongful termination for going back on his word on that point. Undisclosed amount, but I'm guessing Pat Fitzgerald got pretty much everything he wanted, because Northwestern's statement not only said Pat Fitzgerald didn't know anything, it also said he was extremely basically sad and distraught and angry when he found out about it, and that Pat Fitzgerald was great and we love him and he's a legend. So no hard feelings, essentially, was what Northwestern was saying. Pat Fitzgerald said the same thing. He said the discovery process showed that he did not know about it when it was going on. Now you could make the case a head coach should, which is but that's not relevant to a wrongful termination lawsuit. His agent says he wants to coach again. I imagine he will. There's a good chance he's on the sidelines next year.
Yep.
But I think it's important to remember, like, one, yes, he probably should have known that was going on if he didn't. But two, like, his career on the field ended with a 1-11 season. Like, they were a good team in 2020, which was a weird COVID year, and they quickly were going downhill, especially in the new age of college sports with the money in the portal and all this stuff. So, like, it's not like Pat Fitzgerald was coming off a 10-win season. So,
yeah,
he did a really, really good job over a long period of time there. What kind of job he gets, I'm not sure. Probably not.
I don't know.
Job might be more of like a G5 situation.
I could see G5 head coaching job. I could see possible, DC at a big place. There's too many coaches in the coaching profession that really respect him and love him.
Yes.
It's hard for me to see him not being on a sideline next year. I mean, if you were ranking the coaches who had the most respect from their peers, I mean, Fitzgerald would be probably top 5, top 10, easy. So.
And look at the coaches.
We'll see him back.
Look at the coaches who got back in. I mean, DJ Durkin is coaching again. Kendall Briles, Lane Kiffin's kind of the one who kind of got them back in, but he will be back. Pat Fitzgerald. So we'll keep an eye on that on the next coaching carousel. Before we get to remember some guys, though, wanted to do a quick mailbag because we heard back from a couple people on a couple things.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
And that is the face scanning tickets we talked about last week. So Florida is going to have these, basically your ticket is assigned to your face and it can get you and other people in. You don't need to do the mobile ticket. You don't need the paper ticket or what have you. And we got a couple of emails from listeners who have gone through this. One of them, James, said, big fan of the show. I live in Cleveland and the Browns have been using face scanning as tickets for years. It's optional for season ticket holders. I've done it the last 3 years. I like it a lot. The line is shorter. It's also very easy and quick. Also, if I have multiple tickets on my account for a friend or family to come with me, they all show up and can get in with only my face since the ticket is linked to me. I also used it to get into training camp and a Columbus Crew game. To my knowledge, it's only been used for ticket entry. Also heard from listener Cam, said, I did a face scan ticket earlier this summer at a Phillies game. I had David's concerns beforehand, but at least for the Phillies, the app says your photo is deleted 24 hours after the game. Not sure how it'll work for Florida for the entire season, but it was incredibly easy to do beforehand and fast to get in at the game, which was great because it was 100 degrees in Pennsylvania that day. Love the pod. Bunchformationpod@gmail.com to send us any stuff. But Dave, any reaction to face scanning tickets from people who have used them?
No, I mean, I'm sure it's easier. I'm sure it works well. Just enjoy your surveillance state, everybody. We're here.
And with that, we're going to wrap up the show the way we always do. And that is with Remember Some Guys.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
David, I'll let you go first.
So we're nearing into week 1, and I love the Thursday night games. That's kind of like the first real, there's some teams out here. And if you recall, Chris, maybe one of the great week 1 flashes. Flash in the pan is not fair, but Kenny Trill, Thursday night game.
Yes.
Number 21 Texas A&M playing a top 10 South Carolina team. I believe Jadeveon Clowney was on that team. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was on that team. 511 yards, 3 touchdowns, 44 of 60. His first career start. His first career start wasn't exactly throwing to, an NFL. He wasn't throwing to the same guys that like Joe Burrow was throwing to. And immediately Kenny Trill was in the Heisman conversation. One of the great September Heismans of our time. He will always be remembered for that game. And that was his first start. And it was probably his brightest moment, but he went on to be a pretty good player at TCU later on. The
context of that, by the way, he was the Texas A&M quarterback after Johnny Manziel.
Yes.
So that's where all this is a guy replacing Johnny Football, and he puts up those numbers and boom,
broke
we're
Johnny's
off.
record, single season or single game passing record in his first start.
Yeah.
So Kevin Sumlin was firing away at that point. Didn't work out for him. Kenny, by the way, has I saw him. I've had a little bit of a relationship with him, and saw him at the coaches convention a couple years ago, and he was kind of making his way up. And he is now the co-OC at Incarnate Word. They had a rough Saturday, but he came up. Gary Patterson hung on to him at TCU, and then after Gary was fired, he went out to Cal and bounced around and ended up at Incarnate Word and has kind of ascended there. So, to be, how old is Kenny now? Let me see here. He is 30, and he's a co-OC and a position coach at a pretty good program in Incarnate Word. That's pretty impressive. So shout out to Kenny Trill. He had his moment in week 1, but he is making his way in the coaching world.
That reminds me, as we talk about Kansas State, Iowa State week 1, remember the SEC doesn't really do this anymore, but they used to open up with a conference game, remember? And
vaguely,
and Steve Spurrier said he'd like to play Georgia because they'd always have some players suspended for the first game.
Time is a flat circle, as they say.
Yeah. My guy is going to be, so last episode or last week, you did Garrett Wolf, running back in Northern Illinois. And in my head, I was like, there's another Northern Illinois running back who had a great nickname. I couldn't remember. I remembered him this morning. Still one of the greatest running back nicknames of all time. Michael the Burner Turner, Northern Illinois, 2000 to 2003. In 2002, he rushed for 1,915 yards. And I think he was an All-American. Yeah, second team All-American at Northern Illinois. I did not realize he was a 2-time All-Pro in the NFL.
Yeah, I was telling you. So he was LT's backup, and people loved him. And he was one of those guys with
the Chargers.
If he ever gets hurt, he's gonna be a superstar. And then he signed with Atlanta, had a couple really, really good years there. The odd thing is, maybe this is different in college. I don't remember him much in college, but in the pros, not really a burner. So I don't know where the nickname came from. I'm already more of a bruiser than a burner.
Well, I don't know. I'm looking at this his longest yard. This box score has his longest run that year. He had an 83-yarder, a 73-yarder, a 74, a 70, an 81. So he was breaking off some big runs, more than I thought. More than 7,000
consecutive years in Atlanta. Yeah, 5 consecutive years in Atlanta with double-digit touchdowns. So.
Yeah. So shout out to an unbelievable nickname running back, Michael the Burner Turner, Kenny Trill. We remember you.
Yes, sir.
We also have one from we just mentioned listener James. He also brought in a guy to remember, Zach Boren, Ohio State linebacker, on that 2012 undefeated team that missed out on competing for the national championship because Ohio State decided to play the Gator Bowl the year prior after Tattoo Gate under Luke Fickell. So then they got a postseason ban, which, sorry, Ohio State fans, Michigan did not get for Connor Stalions, and I don't think anybody will ever again. But I remember Zach Boren, great leader of that Ohio State team, 2012 undefeated. So Zach Boren, Michael Turner, Kenny Hill, we remember you. That's it. First weekend of games in the book, David. We will be back most likely on Friday this week because David is finally moving into his new house.
Yeah, we're finally moving into the house. So can I before we go, can we lay out my next week for this, Chris? Because this is going to be one of the worst weeks of my life.
Well, no, you can complain about the moving. You cannot complain about the work trip that you yourself pitched.
Well, hang on, because of so Tuesday we were closing on this house. So I'm moving into this new house in Charlotte. Wednesday we're going to try to settle in. And then Thursday, I'm leaving to go to 6 games in 5 days in week 1. I pitched this in March, and I was like, oh, it'd be great. We'll probably move in June. Took us a little longer to sell our house than we thought. So we were closing 2 days before the season starts, in earnest anyway. And then I'm going to 6 games in 5 days. I wrote a kind of a preview about it, but I'm going to NC State ECU on Thursday night. Friday night, I'll be at App State Charlotte in Bank of America in downtown Charlotte. And then I will be hustling down to Atlanta after that to go to Tennessee Syracuse on Saturday at noon. And then leaving that game, I'll be fine. I could probably make the press conference and then book it to the car getting to Clemson for Clemson LSU Saturday night. That should be a big one. Then coming back to Atlanta to do South Carolina, Virginia Tech on Sunday morning. And then stopping in Charlotte Sunday night, sleeping in my own bed. And then Monday night, I'll be in Chapel Hill for TCU, North Carolina. It's going to be a full weekend.
That's how many games we'll often attend in a season. Is like
legitimately
in like a regular season. And so this will be a little bit easier for you because you are in North Carolina now, actually.
Yeah. From the moment that I pitched this, our editors were like all in on it. They were like, oh, this is a great idea. We got to do this. So it's a little bit novelty. It's a little bit fun. Just geographically, I was just kind of doing the math in my head in the spring, and I was like, oh, I can pull this off. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I will be at Baylor Auburn on Friday.
It's called slacking, Chris. That's one game in 5 days.
I'll be, and then so we'll talk more on the second show this week, kind of what our plans are for the weekend. But it's like because of David moving in, we're probably going to record Thursday. So you'll probably get the next show on Friday. And then I may try to go live again Saturday night, just me, not Dave, because he'll be traveling. But we'll figure that out later in the week. So yeah, Dave can finally stop complaining about his house on this podcast.
I'll probably still be complaining for months, just for the record. The PTSD of the spatial issues that we have in this house. It's been.
I can hear the kid. I can kind of hear the kids screaming in the
back.
There
you go.
That is a sign. That is a sign to end this podcast. So
yes, it is.
For David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you later in the week. Keep up the turnover money bag, Sam Houston.
And bring back the turnover chain, lest the turnover money bag take your place in the sun. Don't let it happen, Mario. Don't let it happen. Bring it back.